You're scrolling through LinkedIn at 11 p.m. again, aren't you? Reading about another leader's promotion, another team's success story, and that familiar voice in your head whispers, "What am I missing?" Today, we are ending that conversation forever. Welcome to Mindset Monday. I'm Dr. Cara, and if you're a healthcare administrator or a corporate executive who is tired of questioning your worth despite your achievements, this episode is for you. Let me paint you a picture. It is 3 a.m. and you're wide awake again. Your mind is racing through tomorrow's board meeting, wondering if they really trust your judgment. You've got the credentials, the experience, the results. So why does that voice in your head keep asking, "Am I enough?" Here's what I know about you. You're successful by every external measure. You've climbed the ladder, earned the title, managed the budgets, led the teams. But somewhere along the way, you started measuring your worth by metrics that were never meant to define you. And the exhausting part, you're not just questioning yourself. You're performing your worth every single day. Every meeting becomes an audition. Every decision gets filtered through, what will they think? Every interaction carries the weight of proving you belong. Sound familiar? You are not alone. More importantly, it is not your fault. It is yours to fix. Today, we're diving into the first pillar of my framework for connected leadership. Know your worth. I'm going to show you why your worth crisis isn't just hurting you. It's actually disconnecting you from the very people you're trying to lead. Let me share something that might sting just a little. The reason you're struggling with your worth isn't because you're not good enough. It's because you have been measuring yourself with the wrong ruler. I want to share something that changed how I think about value forever. It came from the most unexpected source, an avocado. Yes, an avocado. When I was younger, I could not stand avocados. Their appearance, texture, taste, everything about them just didn't appeal to me. Here's what I found bananas. People did not stop buying avocados because I didn't like them. The price did not drastically drop because of my opinion. The avocado's value remained completely unchanged by my judgment. All right, let's fast forward this thing. Today, I absolutely love avocados. They are one of my favorite foods. My palate changed, my appreciation grew. And when I'm at restaurants, I love saying, "Can I get a side of guac, please?" Want to know what I find even more bananas? Their price didn't double, triple, or quadruple because I now love them. Their value remained constant, independent of my or anyone else's opinion. Just as the value of an avocado isn't determined what I or anyone else desires, neither is yours. Your worth as a leader, your value as a human being remains constant, regardless of external validation or criticism. But here's what's happening in leadership. You've been outsourcing your self-worth to external validators, your boss's approval, your team's feedback, organizational recognition, industry awards. However, external validation is like trying to determine an avocado's nutritional value by polling everyone's taste preferences. The value exists independent of the opinions. And in healthcare and in corporate leadership, this is particularly dangerous because you are making decisions about people's lives and careers from a place of internal uncertainty. How can you confidently lead others when you are constantly questioning your own foundation? I want to make sure you understand why this matters so much. Gallup's groundbreaking research analyzed over 2 million manager-employee relationships and discovered something that should change how every leader thinks about their role. They found that managers account for at least 70% of the variance in employee engagement. Think about that number, 70%. Not market conditions, not company policies, not even salary or benefits, leadership. Your internal state of worth or doubt is literally determining whether your team thrives or just survives. I learned this the hard way. When I stepped away from my office to cover a clinician's caseload for 2 weeks, I thought I was just filling in, but what I discovered was how my own worth confusion was creating a ripple effect that I couldn't see from my desk. When leaders operate from worth doubt, They unconsciously seek validation through control, perfection, and approval seeking. Their team feels this uncertainty and mirrors it back, second guessing decisions, over consulting, and playing it safe. When leaders operate from genuine worth, they create what Gallup calls engagement multipliers. People who feel empowered to innovate, take risks, and bring their full capabilities to work. There is a financial impact because teams with engaged employees show higher profitability, higher productivity, and better customer service metrics. Your worth isn't just affecting your confidence, it is affecting your bottom line. I want to talk about how to exactly implement worth-based leadership using my RPR method: receive, perceive, and respond. This isn't just theory. This is your daily practice for transforming worth confusion into leadership confidence. Every morning before you check an email, spend 5 minutes on this RPR practice. Receive your actual value. Write down 3 things you bring to your leadership role that are uniquely yours, not your accomplishments, capabilities. Something like, I see solutions others miss. I stay calm in a crisis. I develop people effectively. This will train your brain to receive your value as data, not as opinion. Most leaders focus on what they haven't achieved yet instead of what they're already contributing. This practice interrupts that pattern and builds what researchers call self-efficacy, your belief in your ability to handle challenges. Perceive your worth, independent of outcomes. Throughout the day, catch yourself when you start measuring worth by external metrics. When that meeting doesn't go perfectly, when that project hits snags, when someone disagrees with your decision, ask yourself, does this outcome change my inherent capability? If a team member pushes back on your decision, instead of thinking maybe I'm wrong, perceive it as they feel comfortable enough to engage my ideas. That is psychological safety in action. Respond from worth, not doubt. Here's exactly how worth-based responses look different. For example, decision making. A worth doubt response would be, let me get 3 more opinions before we decide. A worth-based response would be, based on the data and my experience, here is what I recommend. Let's just move forward and adjust as we learn. A feedback example would be a worth-doubt response. I hope this feedback is helpful. A worth-based response, this feedback comes from my commitment to your development and our team's success. An example for delegation would be, are you sure you can handle this? For a worth-doubt response. Now, a worth-based response would be, I'm giving you this project because I trust your judgment and I want to see you grow. Here's your challenge. For the next week, implement what I call the worth decision protocol. Before every significant decision, ask yourself, what would I choose if I completely trusted myself, experience, and expertise? Then choose that without seeking additional validation that you don't need. Track how many times you seek external validation versus trusting your own internal expertise. Set a goal to say like, I'm going to reduce my validation seeking by 50% this week. Watch what happens to your decision speed and your team confidence. It is important to collect data and to train your brain to notice the worth that you are already demonstrating instead of searching for external proof. Let's get practical. I want to give you 3 tools that you can start using today. You can use 1, 2, or all. Tool 1, your daily worth inventory. Every evening, write down 3 things that you did that day to demonstrate your leadership value. Not achievements, actions. I listened fully to Sarah's concern about staffing. I made a decision about the budget without second guessing myself for 3 hours. I gave feedback that was direct and kind. The goal isn't to list accomplishments. It is to train your brain to notice your worth in action. Tool 2, the Gallup Leadership Impact Recognition. It really blew my mind when I learned that Gallup's research revealed managers account for at least 70% of the variance in employee engagement. 70% of whether a team is engaged, motivated, and performing at their base all comes down to leadership. Not market conditions, not company policies, and not even salary leadership. I learned this the hard way. Remember I mentioned earlier, I stepped away from my office to cover a clinician's caseload for 2 weeks, and I thought I was leading by example. What I discovered was how disconnected I had become from the actual impact that I was having. Working alongside my team, I realized that my worth wasn't in perfect systems that I had created or policies or structures. It was in how I showed up for people. This week, step out of your office. Spend some time doing the work alongside your team, not to check up on them, but to reconnect with the actual impact that you are having as a leader. Tool 3, boundary setting based on value. Start making decisions based on your value rather than others' approval. Ask yourself, what would I do here if I truly believed that I was qualified and capable? Then do that thing. Maybe it's speaking up in the meeting where you usually stay quiet. Perhaps it's making a decision without seeking 3 additional opinions. Maybe it's saying no to the project that doesn't really align with your strengths. Your worth does not need external permission to exist. It just needs internal acknowledgement to flourish. Before Wednesday's episode, I want you to try something. I want you to ask yourself this question. What would I do differently this week if I truly believed I was already enough? Not if you achieved more, not if you got more recognition, not if you fixed all your perceived flaws. If you were already enough, exactly how you are, with your current skills and experience. Worthy Wednesday, we're going to talk about how this worth foundation shows up in your actual leadership behaviors, how the way you see yourself becomes the way that others see you, and how knowing your worth transforms not just your confidence, but your connection with your team. Until then, remember, connect to yourself so you can elevate and expand for those that you lead. Your worth is not waiting for external validation. It's waiting for internal recognition. If this resonated with you, if you're ready to stop outsourcing your worth and to start leading from the foundation of internal value, hit subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me what's one thing that you would do differently this week if you truly believed you were already enough. Your courage might be exactly what another leader needs to hear. Remember, the only control you have is how you receive, perceive, and respond. And that's more powerful than you know. I'll see you on Worthy Wednesday when we put this worth foundation into action. Until then, know your worth.